Okay, next up is the featured asset. All right, so what's important about the featured asset is that first and foremost, it's some type of visually striking object. All right, so to give you an overview, the featured asset is going to be one asset that you are able to import from an outside source or make yourself and bring into your Scraps level. So it's one asset outside of the Scraps Asset Depot. Right, so that being said, I really want you to think about how you can tie your featured asset back into your level and make for an interesting experience as well as a problem for the player to solve. Right, so think of it like that way, right? Your featured asset is some problem or major task the player needs to accomplish. So first and foremost, you want your featured asset to be visually striking, right? You want it to stand out in the level. You don't want it to be something that's thrown about everywhere in the level, right? Some type of nice visual landmark or something that catches the player's attention, right? So you don't want to choose like a barrel, right? And you'll have barrels everywhere in your level. You can see here this crane construction vehicle, right, is really stands out and could be a focal point in the level. Next up, you want your featured asset to be tied to player progression in some way. Right, so here you can see another example of a generator. So maybe for this generator, right, we need to go ahead and find there's the fan on it is broken. There's a piston that needs to be replaced, and then it's not powered on. We need to find a fuse. Right, so now the player needs to go and get those items and attach them to this object, and when that happens, right, it disables a force field or low powers down a door, and now the player is able to progress, right? So this is something the player has to do in order to accomplish their goal or to complete the level, right? So maybe going back to this crane over here, maybe you need to attach the wrecking ball to the crane itself and then interact with it, and then the crane spins and smashes through a wall, and then the player can progress, or it smashes through the side of a building, and then the player can go in and get the item that they need, right? But it's visually striking and tied to progression. Next up is interactive, which so far the last two examples have been interactive in some way. So try and come up with something that the player actually gets to interact with and experience, right? Not just a visual landmark or something in the level. That's definitely great if that's what you're going for, but I encourage everyone to push for something that's interactive in some way. So like the two examples, you have to find the pieces and attach them to them. Maybe this tank over here, we need to actually go find some missile rounds for it, right, or some tank rounds, and we pick one up with the Gravenol and carry it over and attach it into the barrel of the tank, and now maybe we're actually able to rotate and turn the top of the tank and then press a button and shoot that missile, and it will blow a hole in a wall or blow up something and allow the player to actually progress, right? But there's something that the player does, not just looking at the object. Then lastly, a memorable interaction, right? So it definitely make it interactive and tied to progression, and really make this a memorable experience, right? If you've ever played a game and then the next thing once you've played through either a level or maybe a boss fight or maybe you beat the whole game, and the first thing that you want to do is just call up a friend and just tell them, hey, I just played this game and it was really awesome because of this, and I really think you should try this game out yourself because of this, right? X, Y, and Z. That type of experience, you want to give that player that wow factor, like, wow, that was really cool. I want to share this with other people. So like having, going back to the generator example, the fan starts, once it's been powered on, the fan starts spinning and lights start blinking, the pistons animate up and down. You see the force field like slowly dissolve away. Maybe with the tank, right, you get like a big, you put the missile round in, and then you get a big explosion. You get some particle effects, right? You get a really cool sound effect, and then the dust settles and they're able to walk through, right? A really, really interesting and memorable experience is what we're shooting for. All right, and definitely be creative with this. So you might, after watching this video, know, okay, I'm going to make a generator, and then you just go forward with the generator. But keep in mind, that this is something you're going to be building and making, and you want it to stand out, right? You want to have your level shine and be as best as it possibly can be. So that being said, let me explain this microscope just a bit. This was actually inspired from a student's level, to where you can pick up certain clues and pieces of evidence throughout the level, and then you would walk up to this microscope, and when you'd interact and press the E key, it would take you out of the third person perspective and almost animate the camera like you're looking through this microscope. So then you can look at the items you collected even further through the microscope and get some information, which would then allow you to progress. So you can see that the size, the physical size of the microscope isn't nearly as big as the top three examples, but still creates an interesting experience and still tied to player progression, and was interactive and was definitely visually striking, because how those lighting on this microscope really drew the eye to this object. So don't just pick your first object, right? If you just pick a generator and go with it, try and come up with really cool ways to interact with that thing, or some possible alternates to make sure that you have the best possible featured asset that you can.